I would guess the biggest challenge for anyone who is new to Windows 8 will be navigating the new user interface. When you boot your Windows 8 machine, you're now presented with this Windows Start screen, which is very different from any previous version of Microsoft Windows. Now, Windows 8 has been designed in what they call the new Metro app style, intended for touchscreens and mobile devices, meaning you'll see and use similar navigation techniques on a tablet, your Windows Phone, and even on your computer with a touchscreen attached. Now, we'll explore touch a little later on its own. For now, let's explore this new UI using our mouse and keyboard, which is really what most people will be doing on their PCs. First, we'll talk about what you see on the start screen, these tiles. And the tiles represent mostly Metro-style apps that come with Windows 8. And all you have to do is click them once to activate them. Let's say, for example, we want to bring up the calendar. Click once on the calendar tile, and you launch the calendar, just like that. Now, probably the most important thing to notice about these Metro apps is you don't have a menu bar. There's no title bar. You don't see minimize and maximize buttons. That's all gone. So you actually leave this running if you want to go back, for example, to the Windows Start screen. And the most important key on your keyboard is going to be the Windows key. Just give it a tap, and you see it takes you right back to the Start screen. Now, we didn't really close up the calendar, so just keep in mind it's running in the background. If we want to go back to it, we can click the calendar icon, or we can run something else. Let's go down to the weather tile and click it. So now we have a second app that's running. So we'll leave this on our screen, and what we'll do is explore something that's new to the Windows 8 UI, and that is hot corners. You can access all kinds of different features by moving your mouse to one of the four corners on your screen. Let's start with the top right-hand corner. You'll see these charms appear down the right-hand side for searching, sharing. There's access to the Start screen as well, so if you don't like using your Windows key on the keyboard, you could click Start right from here. Access devices and settings from here as well. Move your mouse back to the center, it disappears. Let's try the bottom right-hand corner. Same thing. We're going to see our charms appear on the right-hand side of our screen. Now let's go to the top left-hand corner, where you're going to see a thumbnail of any of the apps that might be running, like our calendar. So clicking the calendar actually switches us over to it. Now we still have our hot corners like we did when we were looking at the other app, our weather app. Let's go down to the bottom left-hand corner, and you'll see the Start tile appear. This is another way to get quickly back to the Start screen. So let's click it, and we're back to the Start screen. Right-clicking is something else that will come in handy here in Windows 8. Right-clicking your mouse, depending where you are, is going to give you access to additional features. So here from the Start screen, for example, if you right-click off to the side, not on a tile, one of the tiles on your Windows 8 Start screen is labeled Desktop. Now, because not all apps and programs are of the new Metro style in Windows 8, will automatically be taken to the old style desktop you're accustomed to in previous versions of Windows to run those older programs that still exist. Now, we can also get there anytime by clicking the tile itself. So let's go ahead and click the desktop tile, which takes us directly to that older environment where you'll see icons, for example, shortcut icons. If you have the exercise files and you put them on the desktop like me, that's where you can get to them. You also have your desktop background, and as you move down to the bottom of your screen, you'll see the old taskbar pop up. Now, the same tricks for getting back to the Start screen work here. I like to use the Windows key on the keyboard, a nice short little shortcut. And as we move back to our Windows Start screen here in Windows 8, the desktop is now running in the background like any other app that we may have started. So if we go up to the top left-hand corner, for example, there it is. There's the icon for our desktop. We can click it there to go back. Let's go back to our Windows 8 Start screen by pressing the Windows key. The fastest way back to the desktop is to just press that key again. Go ahead and do that. Notice it's a quick way to flip back and forth between the two environments. Let's go back to our Windows 8 Start screen here. When we try to run a program that is not programmed in the new Metro app style, we'll automatically be taken to the desktop as well. So let's try that. We'll go to the bottom right-hand corner this time. And as we move our mouse there, the charms show up on the right-hand side. We'll go up to Search. Let's say we want to run the old WordPad that we're accustomed to. Clicking Search allows us to type in WordPad. Actually, all you need to do is start to type in the word Word. And there it is over there on the left, WordPad. So we'll give it a click. And notice it takes us to our old desktop environment before launching WordPad. It's not a Metro app designed for Windows 8, but we can still use it here in our old desktop environment. Now we will be working with WordPad a little bit later on, so let's just close it up for now by going to the top right-hand corner and clicking the Close button. Here we are in our old desktop environment where we have certain features and functions that are accessible to us from here. For example, when we move to the bottom of the screen and we see the old taskbar, we can access Internet Explorer, Windows Explorer, or we could right-click to bring up the pop-up menu that gives us access to other toolbars, for example, Task Manager, a decision whether we want to lock the taskbar in its current location or not, and access the taskbar properties as well. Maybe you don't like the auto hide, so you could turn that off if you wanted to from here. Just click Cancel. We can also right-click anywhere on the desktop itself to access some of those shortcuts. For example, the way we're going to view our icons. As we move a little further down, we can adjust screen resolution directly from here. If you're running Windows 8 on a computer with a touchscreen attached, or if you're going to be running it on a tablet or smartphone, you'll want to know how to navigate using touch, or what we call gestures. Let's explore some of them now. We'll begin with launching an app. Simply tap the app you want to launch, like the calendar, for example, and there it is. To access the charms, where we find the Start button, swipe from the far right edge to the left, and the charms appear. Let's tap the Start button, and we're back. Let's tap another app, Internet Explorer, to get it running too. To access the switcher, swipe from the far left edge to the right. Tap the Calendar app to switch to it. To close an open app, you can swipe from the very top edge down until the app turns into a thumbnail. Continue dragging it down to the bottom of the screen now, where it will eventually disappear, meaning it has been closed. As you know, you can do this with your mouse pointer as well. We know right-clicking inside an app or on the Start screen will bring up the app bar. To do this on a touchscreen, swipe from the very bottom edge of the screen and move up. Now here in the Start screen, we see the All Apps option in the bottom right, so let's tap it. Now with too many apps to view in one screen, we can swipe right to left and left to right to see them. We can also zoom out by pinching, which is the same as clicking the minimize button with your mouse in the bottom right corner of the screen. Now tap anywhere in an empty spot on the Start screen to zoom back out. Working with a tablet will usually mean no physical keyboard, but when you access an area that requires input, your soft keyboard will appear. Let's try it. Swipe from the far right edge to access the charms. Let's tap Search now, and notice the soft keyboard appears. We'll type in Calendar, then tap the calendar thumbnail in the search results on the left. So there you have it. Microsoft has made it quite easy to navigate Windows 8, whether you're using a mouse and keyboard or gestures on a touchscreen tablet or mobile device like your Windows phone. In our earlier tour of the Windows UI and Start screen, we touched on viewing apps that are running, switching between them, and closing them. Now, much of this was done using something called the switcher. And there's more that we can do with the switcher, so let's explore it in a little more depth now. First, we'll need some running apps. So let's go to our tiles here. I'm going to open up Weather. Now I'm going to return back to my Start screen by using the keyboard shortcut, which is the Windows key. Give it a tap. Let's run the calendar. That opens up the calendar again in full screen, just like our weather. And we'll go back to the Start screen, hitting the Windows key, and open up our desktop. Now here on the desktop, if we wanted to, we could have multiple apps running here as well. But we're going to go back to our Start screen, hitting the Windows key. And let's say we want to access any one of the running apps that are running in the background now. To access the switcher, we can move our mouse to the top or bottom left-hand corners of the screen. I'm going to go to the top left and then just guide my mouse down towards the center. If you go down to the bottom left-hand corner, you just start to guide your mouse up and you'll see the thumbnails representing each of the apps running in the background. Now notice that there is only one thumbnail for the desktop, and if you wanted to see all of the apps that are running on the desktop, you can't see them from the switcher here. You actually have to use the old-fashioned Alt-Tab keyboard shortcut to see all those apps and run through them as well. Now, using the keyboard shortcut to access the switcher, which is the Windows key and the Tab key, you can continue to hold down the Windows key while tapping the Tab key to cycle through the open apps here in the switcher, and then just simply release on the app you want to switch to. But with the mouse, we just click the one we want to go to. Let's click Calendar. All right, now what if we want to track the weather while we use our calendar? In Windows 8, we can have two apps running side by side using a snap feature. Just keep in mind, it'll only work with a high enough resolution. I'm using the minimum 1366 by 768, and it's the width of 1366 that is the most important number here. So let's go back to our desktop. We can move into one of the hot corners in the top left or right and click the desktop. Anywhere on the desktop, right-click, go down to Screen Resolution and click there, and you'll see your current setting. And you can see mine is the minimum 1366 by 768. And if you need to, you can switch to a higher resolution from here. I'm just going to click outside and click Cancel. I know that my resolution's high enough for the snap feature to work. So we'll go back now to our calendar. Let's go up to the top left corner. And as we move down, we see our switcher. I'm going to click Calendar and I'm back. All right, so one way to use a snap feature is from, just as with other previous versions of Microsoft Windows, you have the ability here in Windows 8 to totally customize and personalize what you see. And we're going to begin with our start screen and the tiles that appear here by default. So yours may not look exactly like mine. I have the default background. The tiles that I see here are my default tiles, the default location, the default size. Notice some of them are large, some of them are a little bit smaller. Well, these are settings that can be changed. First of all, let's say we want to rearrange our tiles so the ones we use most often are over here on the left-hand side. Mail and desktop, definitely, I'm going to use those very often, but there are others here that I might use more often than messaging and people. For example, news. I'm going to click and drag news over here to the left, and you can see what happens. Now I have news, people, and messaging here. Well, the desktop, it needs to be down there. So I'm going to move it down. And aside from people, maybe there's something else I would rather see on the left-hand side, like my calendar. Drag it over here, and everything gets rearranged. So far, so good. Now, some of these don't need to be large tiles. They take up too much room, and there might be other apps I'd like to add to this list of tiles. So I'm going to right-click people. When you right-click a tile, you get the app bar, and you'll see some options. For example, you can make it smaller. By clicking smaller on a large tile, you can see it takes up less space. I'm going to do the same for messaging. Right-click, make that one smaller, and you can see how it rearranges everything, giving me a little extra space or real estate on my desktop where I could add some new tiles. Where would I go to get those? Well, all you have to do is right-click anywhere in the background, and the app bar opens up with the All Apps option in the bottom right-hand corner. We'll click that, where we see all of the apps that are available to us in this new UI, including some Windows accessories like Paint, for example, one I use often. So I'm going to right-click Paint, and you'll notice from the app bar here, one of them is to pin it to the start screen. I can pin it down here on the taskbar so it's accessible from here, but pin to start means it will be a tile that appears now on my start screen. So when we hit the Windows key on the keyboard, the shortcut to get back to our desktop here or Windows start screen, notice we have a new tile called Paint. And we can move that into a more accessible location by clicking and dragging it as well. If there are some that you never use, maybe I don't play games, you can right-click a tile and unpin it. You can even uninstall programs or apps from here, but we don't want to do that. We might need it down the road. We just don't need it on the start screen right now. So clicking Unpin from Start removes it, again creating some extra space. Now, as an administrator, you might use administrator tools on a regular basis, and you want to add those to your start screen. Well, that's actually a setting that we can change, and to access our settings,